We have code in place that connects to the database and runs a query against it. It's now time to work with the results. We have those results in a variable named results. That variable is not a simple array though, like you might think. It's actually a new kind of PHP object. Let's take a look. Open the database.php file in a text editor. We connect to the database, and if that's successful, we run our query. If that query is successful, then we have the return value of the query method in a variable named results. Let's look in more detail at this results variable. We can remove this temporary success message. We can jump down here past the try-catch block. We are only putting the code that connects to the database in that try-catch block. Let's display information about this results variable to the screen. Back in the browser, you can see that this variable is an object. It's a different kind of object than any we've looked at so far. It's not an object of the PHP mailer class or of the PDO class. It's a PDO statement object. Remember that an object is a collection of variables called properties and functions called methods all bundled together. When you display information about an object to the screen like this, you'll see its list of properties. This object has one property, query string, which appears to have the query we just ran as a string. But I wonder what methods it has. PDO statement is a native class in PHP, so we can find details in the PHP manual. Let's perform a Google search for the class name. The first result is a link to the PHP manual. Looking at the introduction, you can see that objects of this class represent a prepared statement and, after the execution, an associated result set. We'll talk more about that first part down the road, but what we're interested in right now is the result set. Here's a list of methods available for objects of this class. Some of these have names that might look obscure, like bindParam. We'll only be using a portion of this PDO statement object's functionality right now. Scrolling down past this list of methods, you can see all the method names here again with a little bit of a description. Let's see. This fetchAll method looks promising. It returns an array containing all of the result set rows. The documentation for an object's method looks more or less like the documentation for a function, though there are a few extra things. The first word here tells you what kind of method it is. In this case, a public method. We're just scratching the surface on objects in this course, so I won't go through all the possibilities. But a method is public if you can call it from code outside of the object. Next is the word array. This method returns an array. You see here the class name followed by 2 colons followed by the method name. In PHP, these 2 colons represent a relationship between the class name on the left and the property or method name on the right. After that, you'll see some arguments that are all marked as optional in square brackets. We'll call the fetchAll method first without any arguments and see what happens. Alright, so let's go back to our code. We saw that the results variable is a PDO statement object using this troubleshooting code. All PDO statement objects have a fetchAll method, which we saw looking in the documentation. Let's call that method now. We'll eventually load the return value into another variable, but let's first just display it to the screen. Back in the browser, let's take a look at this return value from the fetchAll method. This return value is an array. It has 32 elements, one for each shirt in the database. It actually looks a lot like our products array, though there are a few key differences. Overall, though, this return value is now a 2-dimensional array, 1 element for each product at the top level and 1 element at the second level for each attribute. We've now written code that uses a PHP data object to query the database and to load the results into a PHP variable, something that resembles our products array. Next, we'll modify what we've written so far to make that resemblance even stronger.